Looks like we're good. Hey everyone, welcome to the stream. I'm very tired today. It's been an interesting day for sure. But yeah, I'm excited to stream and chat about transit and other stuff today, and yeah, it should be good. I'm just looking at the chat and I'll let some things load in. Um, there's a big delay between when I'm actually talking and the video, and that's because that's kind of the only way for me to maintain quality because the internet connection here is not amazing. Anyways, yeah, lots to chat about today. Lots of interesting topics and the like, and I'm very excited to stream. Yeah, it's been 2 weeks. It's always 2 weeks. I stream every 2 weeks. There's a link to my next stream, which is in the description of this video. That's always where it is, but I thought I'd remind you anyways. We're on episode 14. That's a lot of time streaming, and yeah, it's fun. I enjoy chatting with people, and I will go through the chat at some point. But yeah, I think I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyways, just looking at the chat. I was gonna say something. Oh yes. If you haven't already, go check out the second channel. I think it's something that is just a fun project. But okay, someone's saying, well, sorry. I'll try to increase the audio levels here slightly. Let's see if I can do that. Hopefully this is helping. Hello. Okay, I think that should be good now. Anyways. Oh, crap. Someone says he's okay. Okay. Well, hopefully this is good. Anyways, if you're not, go check out the second channel. I think it should be pretty good. It's going to be something that I work on over time and develop into something. I'm not sure what it will be. Some of it will be low quality, but I think it will be a fun little project on the side besides doing YouTube in general. If you haven't already, join the Discord. It's a great place to tear apart my videos and break my heart. But it's also a good place to talk to lots of different people who have knowledge of transit systems around the world and have great discussions and the like. It's really a cool place. At the same time, you should definitely follow me on Instagram and Twitter because I post stuff there and I think sometimes it's interesting. So without further ado, let's talk about some of the topics I wanted to discuss today. Let me mute that. That's not good, is it? So what I was going to say is that there have been some pretty rough weather events around the world, and I actually used to be quite interested in the idea of like rail resiliency and how do we create train systems, metro systems, since that's kind of the thing I'm most interested in, but rail systems in general, which is an important theme for the channel. How do we create them so that they're more resilient to climate change? Because I think it's a really important question, and I think it's just generally one of those things that, like, why wouldn't you want to improve your technology and your system? So I think it's a really cool discussion to have, and it's something I recommend my viewers think about sometimes. Like, one thing that's really difficult to manage is the bigger temperature swings, especially in places like where I live in Ontario, where we get -25, -30, and then in summer we get 30s and sometimes even 40s now. That's a 70-degree temperature swing, which is one of the largest in the world, and it makes it really hard to manage a rail system. And so, it's a question of how do we make our systems more resilient for the future. And I don't know if anyone saw videos from China, Henan province, this last week, but there was a ton of flooding, which is terrible. Hopefully, people are trying to stay safe. Obviously, it's a difficult situation and lives have already been lost, but this is sort of thing that we need to prepare more and more for, and it's probably going to make our systems more and more expensive to manage and to construct, but things like drainage and the ability to manage heat and air conditioning and all these things need to be top of mind. And it's a little concerning, but one way you could do that is by burying more stuff, right? Because systems that are underground have a lot of built-in resiliency that systems above ground do not. The Montreal Metro obviously has a lot of problems, but it doesn't really have to deal with storms to the same extent that an above ground system would have to deal with them. It doesn't have to deal with a lot of the heat problems. Obviously, it has heat problems, but they're not really associated with the heat above ground as strongly as it would be if it was an above ground system. And so it's just interesting things we need to think about. Anyways, that was the first thing I wanted to talk about. First thing, I'm going to go through some of the chat messages, and then I have more stuff that I can potentially chat about if that doesn't keep me busy, because usually people have lots to say in the chat, and I love to just respond and chat about different things. So, well, there's lots of stuff. So yeah, I was a little late to the stream. YouTube streaming and just streaming in general is a little wonky sometimes, and it can be hard to get things set up properly, get the links all ready, but yeah, I try to be live right away. Okay, let's look. So someone's saying in 1960 the GTA in 1960 the GTA in Cleveland had the same population, and the question is basically like, if they didn't stop growing, would the systems rival each other? And the answer is maybe, but transit systems in the U.S. are generally not that strong. Even systems like New York, don't necessarily compete in a lot of ways with Toronto. There's a lot of stuff where, especially in terms of the forecast, Toronto's system is expanding in a serious way, and New York's is not. And so, and service-wise, obviously, Toronto is better than New York, especially bus service-wise. So I don't necessarily think so, but I do think that, again, interestingly, and this is something else that comes up sometimes when you're thinking about climate, is that the cities that we invest in major infrastructure in and that countries sort of strategically think about as their important cities will probably change. And the Great Lakes are some of the best locations possible from a climate resiliency standpoint, because they're close to lakes, which moderate the temperatures to an extent and provide fresh water. They are quite high in elevation typically, so sea level rise is less of a concern. Obviously, flooding is a major concern, but sea level rise and just flooding, sea level rise is a lot harder to deal with, right? So the Great Lakes are a really important area, and the Rust Belt is a very interesting area for the future, because there's these cities that do have infrastructure to handle much larger populations, like Detroit and Cleveland and Buffalo, etc. And so maybe these are like the cities of the future. Chicago, obviously, as well. And maybe it would be interesting, but think about a future where New York is less important than Chicago, right? And I guess maybe at some point in the past, New York was less important than Chicago, and Chicago was obviously much more important. But it's interesting to think about, like, Toronto, location-wise, is one of the most resiliently located cities. Think of all of the massive, important cities that are going to be really struggling with rising sea levels, for example, London, New York, Tokyo, Shanghai, etc. So it's very interesting. There's not actually that many major inland cities in the world. Like, there are obviously many, because the world is a big place, but if you look at like major cities, many are along the ocean. So interesting thing to think about. Anyways, let's continue along. Yes, Alfie, I had to make sure you had time to go grab something. Someone says, congrats on 30K. Thank you so much, but it's not the milestone I'm looking forward to. And I have been a little sad, because recently the channel has not been growing that fast, and it is a little disheartening, but what can one do besides keep making videos, right? Oh, someone has the same white drawers. They're okay. IKEA stuff is really interesting. Every time I buy something, I'm like, next time I'm going to pay someone to build it, because I've built so much IKEA furniture in my life. Literally everything in view is IKEA furniture, and it hurts your hands and knees, and it's a struggle to build. It's not very fun. So yeah, no, it's okay. You're also not supposed to put your TV on that cabinet, so I'm living dangerously. I don't think it's a big problem, but yeah. if you're just joining, link to the next stream's in the description, and go check out the second channel. So someone is talking, Discord barely works on Go. Go Wi-Fi is not great. That's why good cellular data would be better. Again, I have this series, the Transit Ecosystem, which I haven't done enough videos for. I'm going to do a video on cellular data. I think it's actually something that would surprise people how important it is to transit. You know, like being able to see schedules and being able to see when the next train comes, but also cellular deployment in tunnels, I think is super important. In fact, let me go tweet at Metrolinx because I have a very interesting question. Actually, I'll tweet at all of the parties that are involved. So I just tweeted at Metrolinx and some other people. You can go look at my tweet if you're following me on Twitter. But basically what I was asking is, will the underground tunnels of the Eglinton Crosstown have cellular service? I don't really care for Wi-Fi on trains because at the end of the day, it's just sort of a... When you have Wi-Fi on trains, right, it's just being delivered by cellular data. And while that's great and all, if the data cap is as low as it has been on Go Transit, then it may not be actually that valuable to people. But at the same time, just having that cellular data is really awesome, and I'm hoping the Eglinton Crosstown will have it, because new lines in Vancouver, for example, had wires installed so that they could have cell service in the tunnels, and I hope to see the same in Toronto. We're really behind because our existing tunnels do not have very good cellular service. I believe it's only really the downtown core that's covered, and it's only on a single carrier because of the way the TTC sort of did it. They gave the rights to a third party who is playing hardball with the carriers, which cool, great, but now no one gets cellular service unless they choose kind of the oddball carrier in Canada. So a little annoying. Anyways, when will the Jane LRT be built? I'm not sure, to be honest. Maybe eventually, but hopefully not, because LRTs aren't really that good for the suburban transit role, in my opinion. At least not how we build them in Toronto. You should do a podcast with Not Just Bikes and City Beautiful. That would be cool, but I haven't actually been able to chat with Not Just Bikes, sadly. And okay, 10 seconds. I'll get back to this. Adam something, the legendary Adam something, has left a comment here in the chat. Thank you, Adam, because super chats are much appreciated. But we need to talk about your take on trolleybuses. Okay, let's be clear. I think it is a little annoying how misrepresented creators are. I'm not going to name names or anything, but it is really frustrating that creators, and this is not something I'm saying to Adam, I'm saying it generally and broadly, because I know people who watch me on YouTube, follow me in other places, etc. It's really frustrating. I'm sorry, I was in 3 conversations at once, and I will return, but I need to address this. Also, super chats, right? They're great. It's really frustrating, some of the stuff creators have to go through. And I'm saying this as a person who has worked regular jobs in my life, lots, and the frustrations of regular jobs are real. But I don't think people realize, negative comments, etc. It's very easy to say, dismiss them, etc. It's amazing. If I just go on my phone and look at comments, I get a comment, every time I refresh, if I were to just keep refreshing, I would probably have new comments. And so many people are just mean, or they assume the worst of what you're saying, or they try to point something out and assume that you didn't think about that, because again, I have a transit YouTube channel with 400 videos on it. I think about most of the devil's advocate arguments when I make a video, but if you are to address all of them, your videos would be an hour long and you would never get any views. So that's frustrating. But with regard to trolleybuses, I made a video saying, what are the problems with trolleybuses? Problems that exist because people who operate and plan transit for trolleybus systems have told me about these problems. I remember having friends whose parents were bus drivers as kids. I remember sitting in someone's backyard chatting with a few bus drivers and them telling me how terrible driving the trolleybuses were because they were unreliable, and because if you dewire, it's very frustrating and you have to be very careful driving them. And I think these are real concerns, and trolleybuses obviously have value, and I never said in the video that they didn't make sense anywhere, which is what frustrates me, because people like sort of make it out like I hate trolleybuses, or in my recent video, like I hate double-deckers. I think I saw people say something like Reece hates double-deckers. I don't hate them. You have to recognize that technologies have their niches, right? And you can't just propose technologies as broad solutions, because in many cases there are competing interests. I do think trolleybuses are good technology, and I think that things like, here's another problem, okay? There's the whole range extended trolleybus thing. And I think that's a cool technology and all, but the problem is that they depend on batteries anyway. And as someone who is a computer scientist, I naturally think that if you have a technology that still depends on batteries, well, then it doesn't really matter. Like, if you think battery buses are bad, but battery buses developing means your trolleybus range extended technology also improves. But what that means is that fundamentally you want batteries to become good enough that trolleybus wires would be unnecessary. And at the end of the day, I do think that, like, if we could choose between battery buses and trolleybuses, I think battery buses are probably better in many ways. Not having wires is good. Like, wires are ugly, legitimately, and they can be dangerous, and they require maintenance. And the lack of decentralization is an actual problem that exists when planning infrastructure, especially given that buses operate over large areas, and bus routes change, especially in growing cities. That's something I experienced in Vancouver a lot, right? Now, there's probably benefit to having, maybe, like, if you're going to have tri-articulated buses and, having the density of power on them is going to be difficult for a while, then yeah, trolleybuses make sense. But battery buses have a lot of benefits, and people, talk about lithium, etc. There is not a lack of battery materials in the world. We have the ability to access lots of lithium, etc., and we should be moving to better chemistries over time. And I think that at the end of the day, that benefits everyone, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you like trolleybuses or whatever. It raises the quality of technology for everyone. As mentioned in my video yesterday, Schiphol has a large electric bus fleet of battery buses. Obviously, the Netherlands is a place that does transit well. It's a place I haven't covered much, but I need to cover it more. And it is funny, people are like, oh, Not Just Bikes covers the Netherlands. I love Not Just Bikes, but he does not have a monopoly on talking about the Netherlands because it's a great place. Obviously, they have a great rail network and great transit, and my channel is really about transit. So I don't think we have some overlap, but we're very complementary. But look, they use battery buses. They could have installed trolleys. They're very smart people, competent, etc. But battery buses do have their benefits, and I think that it's sort of ideological to suggest that one technology is just inherently worse or better, because obviously they have their drawbacks. Trolley buses obviously can last really long, but there's no reason battery buses also couldn't. Battery buses, I would say one of their main disadvantages is they're heavy, which is a big issue. But remember, in a world that needs to be more resilient to climate change, we're going to probably need to change a lot of our roads to being concrete anyways because of the heat change, because if you've seen what happens to roads when it gets really hot out, it's not good if they're not made out of concrete. Even if they are made out of concrete, it can be difficult. But concrete roads kind of remove some of the issues with vehicle weight. But again, all I'm saying is that these aren't simple discussions, and so I'm always skeptical when someone's like, something is universally bad, which I didn't say about trolleybuses in my video. That's all I wanted to say. I went on a really long tangent. Anyways, let's get back to chatting. Thank you again, Adam, for the super chat. Guys, go check out Adam's channel. He has a great video on monorails. Really great video. And I'm sure we will end up doing something collaborative in the future when the opportunity strikes. Holy. Okay, so I'm scrolling up. So they were mentioning Not Just Bikes. Yeah, so podcast with these folks. I've never actually got in touch with City Beautiful, but if someone knows the fellow behind City Beautiful, whose name I forget, my apologies, I'd love to be connected, for sure. Not just bikes I am connected with, and we chat here and there, and obviously I'm a big fan of the channel and the like, and I'm sure we will do something together in the future. Because, yeah, I appreciate the videos a lot. So let's continue. The second channel does have a video about engineering and planning, so yeah, you should watch it. Check out the second channel. Interesting that the Porto Metro is going to be compatible with the really old tram lines. Someone is saying something. I like that people care enough about my videos to challenge me on things and to check my work. It is appreciated. No worries. Okay. What do you think the optimum length is for a tram? Well, I think if you're gonna go, tram. I think if you're gonna go for trams, they should probably be as long as possible, Budapest style, because trams are one of those things that I've obviously been critical of in the past. I think a lot of people are in the transit space, but yeah, you know, if you're gonna do trams, they should be long, because that's one of the big benefits, is they can be really long because they're on rails, right? Let's continue here. Catenary or third rail for metro systems. Both have their benefits, to be fair, but I think I'm generally a catenary person. You know, higher top speeds, safer, and the like. But there are disadvantages like profile, etc. I also think overhead wires are kind of cool, though. But that's the sort of view that you can't allow to influence you. I know that there are people out there who probably like trolleybuses because they think they're cool. I'm not personally that much of a fan of the look of a trolleybus, but I get it. Like, there's obviously, when you're talking about these things, you're influenced by your own personal tastes, and that's something you have to try to eject from the conversation. Yes, those metro pics were scary, and the amount of water flowing through those tunnels was crazy and obviously very dangerous. Moscow Metro uses a lot of hermetic floodgates. Maybe other subway systems should learn from Moscow. That's very interesting to hear, and it's good. Like, yeah, no, I think that there's probably like a big business opportunity for people creating climate resiliency technologies. One interesting place to look at, and I'm sorry I'm not talking about Moscow, I'm just not as familiar, is New York, where they did do, and they have done a lot of interesting stuff post-Hurricane Sandy. And I think that it's good, but it shouldn't just be New York, right? Like, look at the whole eastern seaboard of the U.S. They should all be doing the same things New York is doing to prepare and to protect their systems, and we should learn from them in Toronto, too. You know, southern parts of our subway system are super susceptible to flooding, and parts of our streetcar system, etc. And so, you know, we should learn. So some of the things that New York has done is they've installed giant gates on subway entrances to basically be able to seal subway entrances off if it's raining. Same with overhead air grates, you know, that you see on the sidewalk. Putting in stuff that they can use to seal those if there's going to be flooding, so that, you know, you don't destroy your infrastructure. That's good. That's a good investment, and designing your infrastructure to be hardened as well, so that it can resist, you know, being flooded out and stuff like that. As well as flood protection works, etc. I'd be curious. Maybe people can post in the chat. I won't see it until later, but I will remember. Please let me know. Would you be interested in a video on Toronto's multi-billion-dollar flood protection and city building scheme? If you would, let me know, and maybe I'll do a video on that. I think it's a really interesting topic. But I think that there's a lot of, like, if we're talking about developing our systems, I think it's really cool to make a system better. Not just bigger, but better, like hardened against disaster and stuff like that. So I think it's an interesting topic. Another thing that New York did was plastic ties using recycled materials. And that's something I've actually seen in Toronto on the subway as well, which is very cool. Anyways, let me continue. Lots of chat. Japan has an interesting technology on the Shinkansen, which sprays the tracks with water to get rid of snow and ice in the winter. Yes, and it also, I believe, helps when a train shoots through, right? Obviously, if the snow and ice has kind of got wet, it's heavier and it also sticks together, so it doesn't kind of create plumes that hit passengers and blind the driver. So that's a great technology, and it's the sort of thing that, again, we need to think about deploying more widely. We need to look at our railway systems as not just consisting of rails and wire or rails and third rail. They consist of a lot of other things, and we should, when we design our rail corridors and our rail systems, we need to design in space for all these extra technologies in case we need to install them. So yeah, if someone's saying if the Moscow metro gets flooded, the door system basically localizes the issues, and that's obviously really important, because even if you get catastrophic damage in one place, you have a limited number of construction workers, which is a big problem we don't talk about enough. And so if you can limit the amount of damage that gets done to a single spot, you can fix that faster. Didn't New York Metro get flooded due to it being underground? Well, most metros are underground for some portion of their operations, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have to flood, right? You can have pumps and drainage systems that protect you. There's lots of, look at Amsterdam, right? The metro goes under lots of water. Obviously, many metro systems do this, but Amsterdam is obviously very susceptible potentially to flooding, and their system operates underground, right? So think about how these systems have to be designed. What do you think of Not Just Bike's video on Houston? I liked it, right? I think that at the end of the day, it kind of shows how people feel. And I've had experiences like that where I'm walking around Toronto and there's some construction or something. And this happens frequently, and it's very frustrating, but there's often no consideration to pedestrians, right? I'm just looking to see if I got a reply to my tweet. There's this moment in your life where you deal with something super frustrating like that, and it changes how you think. And it is frustrating to think that engineers who design this stuff, who are educated people, don't even think about a whole class of users. And yeah, it's infuriating. So no, I appreciate it a lot. Adam says, greetings. Japan is a great case to look at for weather, earthquake, and tsunami protection. They do a lot of stuff, and they have a really performant system. And I think what that shows you is that it is possible, right? It's possible to have a good system and still invest in protecting it. I think, those kind of come together. Have you heard about Detroit improving their public transit system, or do you have any suggestions on how Detroit can improve it? It's something I should talk about, but I haven't looked into it too much. Detroit, honestly, maybe, start with good bus service, extensive good bus service, okay? And then Detroit having so little rail, having basically the Q line, which is very weak rail transit, start with bus and build out rail from there. But, a Chicago L-style system seems like it could work with Detroit's wide streets, etc. So, but again, with concrete guideways. Hey, if we're going to build a REM system anywhere else, let's do it in Detroit. There you go. Cleveland has a line from the downtown to the airport, and it never works. That's it. Well, let's fix it. Someone's saying, but not the humidity. I'm not sure what it's being referred to. Should I move to Phoenix or Texas for cheaper housing to get away from the VTA? Well, why move to Phoenix or Texas, right? I think my video about not owning a car sort of suggested that you should live in a more transit-friendly place. Even if it's more expensive, you should do the calculation and look if I don't have to own a car, if I can cut so many expenses out of my life, maybe it makes more financial sense. And maybe you don't want to own a car. Phoenix and Texas are not the places to move if you care about urbanism and if you care about transit, right? And so if you live there, you're going to probably face a lot of struggles. In the US, anti-subway NIMBYism is fueled by people basically thinking the subway is going to bring crime, and that's a transit thing in general. The lack of a Portland Max extension to Vancouver, Washington was largely on those grounds. I think it's part of the problem is it's the same thing, right? You let your system become a hotbed of crime when people don't use it. It's not well serviced. You don't fund it. All of these things together lead to a system that is more likely to become a hotbed for crime. So I think it's critical you don't get there though, because when you do, then people have legitimate concerns about their safety. Then it's very hard to blame someone for not doing something that would endanger them. And there are some transit systems out there where it is legitimately a bit dangerous. And so I think that not getting there is critical. And if you have a system like that, you have to invest a lot to make people feel safe. Yeah, that's what I would say. Ooh, Alfie's offering to build my IKEA furniture. Hey, if you want to, I would appreciate it. In Chongqing, the metro was able to operate over flooded roads. Might be one of the benefits of elevated alignments. Definitely, but you have to think about other problems, right? Because then you're really exposed to the elements. So it's something to think about. So someone is saying, where does the stereotype of IKEA troubles come from? Because they're saying it's not hard to build. I 100% agree. It isn't hard to build. What it is tiring. It takes a long time if you have a lot of furniture to build. It's easy to cut yourself and get slivers from the particle board. So it's not that it's hard to build. It's definitely not. It's very straightforward, and I think that it's basically like Lego, right? Which is great. But it's just a pain to build. And you have these heavy containers or heavy cardboard boxes full of stuff. And obviously, it's furniture, but it's just tiring, right? And it makes a huge mess. There's all this dust everywhere after you assemble something, etc. It's just frustrating. Mobile phone access on the Copenhagen Metro. That's awesome to hear. The car video was the one that started a storm in the Discord. Yeah. What do you think of extending GO trains to London? I think it's an okay idea. I think that if Via could just focus all their services on the Southern line, that would be valuable, i.e. not via Kitchener, and then just have GO provide a good service on the Kitchener to London corridor. I don't know. Does London really need GO trains? I guess the one thing that would be valuable, and this is the same value that the Hamilton extension has, but this does require to some extent bidirectional service all day, is now think about it, you can have commuter trains essentially serving Waterloo and Hamilton, which will have LRT systems, albeit Hamilton's will not actually be connected to the light rail, which is a little frustrating. But Metrolinx's timetables aren't really conducive to that at the moment, but imagine, and since Waterloo will have a redesigned station that does connect really nicely with the Ion LRT in Waterloo, you could have a really cool situation where people who live in London, and I can literally imagine this, students who are going to University of Waterloo could commute into Waterloo via the GO train and then take the Ion, and then that makes the GO train not just a Toronto thing, and I think that's a good place to be because it builds a constituency who wants improved service, rolling stock, etc. So definitely possible. How are you doing? Amtrak just announced it's returning back to full capacity on all of its routes. I'm doing okay. It was my birthday this last week, and I'll show you folks what I got. I was very excited about it, and maybe you'll think I'm a huge nerd, but I make train videos, so I think we're past that point. But yeah, it's great to hear it's back to full capacity. What do you think of metro ring lines? I'm actually going to let this one go. I have a video planned which is literally about metro ring lines. So, yeah. I was looking at the Bangkok metro system, which is very confusing, and the Wikipedia articles are bad. So if you are a Wikipedia person, great opportunity to go fix some of that. I think the way I understand it, though again, the Wikipedia articles are bad, and so it's a little hard to confirm my assumption, is that Bangkok has two metro systems. One is called the BTS SkyTrain, and one is called the Bangkok MRT. They are maybe integrated to some extent, but it is a little confusing. Anyways, they have a circle-ish line on the Bangkok MRT, the blue line. It's very interesting. Sorry for that random take. Are you familiar with French transit systems outside of the Parisian region? The Lyon one is my personal favorite. Yes, I am. Lyon's metro with the rack railway is quite cool. I am familiar with a bunch of transit systems in France, though. I talk about them on Twitter sometimes. The Rennes metro is one I really like, and it's something I was like, hey, CDPQ in Montreal, who's building the REM East, you should do something like the Rennes metro with the cool sort of angled concrete posts for the guideway. When we build tunnels, we provide reception for all carriers for the workers, so really hard to think that a final installation you choose not to. Well, at least the way it works in Canada, I think, is that typically the phone carriers themselves come in and do it as a kind of benefit to their customers. But yes, it's a bad system, I agree. I remember having friends too, buddy. Post your videos to Facebook transit groups. I used to, and I decreasingly do. Facebook transit groups have got worse. And, well, there was one main Facebook transit group. It wasn't really a transit necessarily specific group. It got really bad, and I just sort of stopped doing it because Facebook is a toxic place, and I've basically stopped using Facebook. I use Messenger, and then I basically don't use Facebook because it is full of spam. The groups are toxic. It's full of spam, full of misinformation. It's just not a good place. I've largely started using Twitter, and I find Twitter to be a lot better because it feels less spam infested. It still has spam and stuff, but yeah. Your Wamada video was well done. Thank you so much, and holy heck, there was a lot of messages here. I'm gonna try to fly through this. Get to the bottom, okay? Okay, so people are saying yeah, there isn't one solution. Yeah, I mean, I think I have lots of takes on this stuff. I just think that at the end of the day, technologies are technologies. Sometimes they exist for no reason. Sometimes they exist for a reason. This is heresy. But there are some monorail systems out there that aren't terrible, right? And I've always come back to say that, like, your technology, okay, whatever, but you could have a, gadget bond with good service, right? And so we shouldn't build more monorails, and except for maybe there are probably a few niches where it actually makes sense, but generally we shouldn't build monorails, right? But when we do and we have them, well, then let's just operate a good service and make the best out of a bad situation, right? Any idea when the US-Canada border will open again for travelers? Looks like it will happen in August. CDLTO says, frankly, I should have a monopoly on talking about the Netherlands. CDLTO is a bit of a Netherlands expert. If Chicago kept growing, it would massively boost the tax base, allowing for much more upkeep, expansion, and TOD. Do you agree? Well, Chicago already has a massive tax base, so I don't think that's necessarily an excuse. I do think more TOD would be valuable. It would be a great way of funding station improvements, for example, which is one of the many things Chicago needs. But I think the federal government probably should just make a giant investment in like the top 5 biggest systems and just try to bring them up to modern standards. You're saying concrete is horrible for CO2 footprint. Yes, but there's a lot of ways of making concrete more sustainable, and it's a technology that's being thought about a lot. So there are, maybe now, yes, but there are other building materials, etc. There's a lot of opportunities for other improvements. Isn't a major problem with batteries, the exception of solid-state batteries, lithium is basically the best element. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on there. Is concrete worse than asphalt, which is made from oil and needs to be replaced frequently, right? What do you think about metro... Okay, wait, that's kind of weird. I think someone resent a message. Do you like light rail if done right in an urban area? Sure, but I just don't think it's the highest priority for North American cities, which are highly suburbanized. Do you think the scope of the Ontario line should be expanded to further relieve the Yonge line and serve the West End? Sure, but do that via extensions. We don't need to expand the scope of a project that is already quite large and that needs to get built ASAP. And also, it already expanded the scope over the relief line, so I think the Ontario line is doing lots already. The Making of Urban Japan, Cities and Planning, from Edo to the 21st Century, is a book about Japan I recommend. No, it sounds great. Reece is a cat person. You heard about it here first. I'm not sure where you're getting that. Car in Tokyo or in Osaka, Kyoto, 1/3, in Nagoya, 65%. Yeah, not great. Big problem with lithium is workers' rights or lack thereof. Yeah, but that's not a problem with lithium. That's just a problem with the way we're extracting lithium. I mean, that's literally a problem with every possible thing you could mine, right? It doesn't make the mineral you're mining the problem. Same with environmental issues, right? You have to learn to do it sustainably and, well, actually taking care of people. And obviously, as a massive in-demand material, that shouldn't be hard, right? You should have the funds to take care of your workers, right? So, that's what I have to say for that. What's your least favorite transit project in the GTA? Eglinton Crosstown. Trolleybus equals poor man's tram. I don't really, I don't really have these kind of out there views. Yes, exactly. You have to extract the oil to make asphalt, and you have to replace it really often. In Toronto, it's like constantly you're getting potholes, etc. It's a nightmare. IMO, Eastern Seaboard, is a term that only exists in the Monsters, Inc. universe. Okay. Do you think Paris could bring trams back to the city center? It could help decongest the subway and help with accessibility. I mean, they semi-have brought them back to the city center, but not like the city center. Yes, they should. But maybe they will have to use small trams since the blocks are tiny. Someone's saying, yes, great topic for the flood protection video. Let me write that down so that I know to make a video. Obviously, it could take a while, though, because I have like a billion videos I need to make. Okay. Let's go. I'm just monitoring my different chats, etc. If you're not in Discord already, and then hey, I've been streaming for like 40 minutes, and I still have a ton of messages to go through, and I will go through people's messages. But this is a good time to remind you, if you haven't already, check out the new channel. There's only like 100 something subscribers on there. I would love to get it up to 1,000 to make it a bit more sustainable. So please go check it out and at least watch the Vancouver versus Toronto video. I think I expressed a lot of my feelings as someone who moved from Vancouver to Toronto there. But there is more good content to come. If you're not already, join the Discord. It's great. Lots of great conversations going on. Links all over my channel for these things. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Someone is asking, what are my streaming settings as basically in the Discord? And what I want to say is that I'm streaming this on a Mac Mini, an M1 Mac Mini, which isn't great. It's not designed for streaming. And I have a Dell computer coming, but we'll see what happens. I haven't decided what technology ecosystem is best for me still. It's a bit of a problem. But at the end of the day, I think the reason people come here is for my voice, not for this video of me. So hopefully things are okay. Anyways, let's continue. Okay. What would you do to improve commuter rail service in New York City? Through running service is a great goal, but they all have different electrification and platforms. So someone's yes, but you can have trains like those used on Metro North, which have a bajillion different types of electrification compatibility. So that would be the best approach. But the thing is, you have to really redesign the whole network, right? You have to plan out how are we serving this network, what is the service patterns, etc. And that level of complexity, I think maybe some advocates have made plans and discussed that before, but that's what you have to do first. But there's great potential, obviously, and like truly great potential. I'm not saying it would be London level if you did it right, but you could have some really fantastic improvements to the transit network, especially in areas like Queens, right, where there's room for faster service and improvements. Plans to extend Line 9 and Line 8 into Paris proper. That's great to hear. Some people reject to catenary electrification because of how unsightly it is. Yes, absolutely. And so it is a real concern. And people are fair to some degree. Did you see Alan Fisher's roast video? Yeah, it was funny. Are there any examples of a nationalized intercity bus service? Is that something the US or Canada should look into? I actually am not aware, but there probably is many examples in like Europe or something along those lines. I would assume, or somewhere there's a nationalized bus service. It is something I would like us to look into since it isn't super economical to have that service. But it's really valuable to people, and maybe it could be economical someday if we get the ridership. Bombardier bought a Portuguese train brand up, and Bombardier bid it. Very sad. Video and audio desynced. Yeah, it's donate big money to help me improve my stream setup. I might not end up improving it. At the end of the day, does it really matter if my video is synced up? I usually, when I'm experiencing other people's live streams, I listen to them and I go for a walk or something because, yeah, it's just more productive that way. And I wouldn't blame anyone for doing the same for me. It's less the computer that's the problem. I think it's more the internet connection, which it might be a while until that gets fixed. But hey, it's the slow march towards a better RMTransit, right? What do you think of LRTs in Edmonton, Toronto having different suppliers for vehicles on different lines? I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? You know, that's natural. Having more suppliers is good because it gives you choices. What happens if your supplier goes Bombardier? Like has happened all over Canada, right? Then, you know, it's good to have some alternatives. And there's lots of good suppliers, so I think having options is always better. And also what it means is that those suppliers have experience working with your system, which means that, you know, it makes it easier for them to provide you future rolling stock. This may be a bit of an ask, but any way you could move the stream time earlier. Yes, there is absolutely. I'm sorry, I was planning on continuously doing it earlier in the day. The problem is I have a bad habit, which is I sleep in really late. Sometimes, not always. I used to wake up really early, but lately, like the last week, I've been waking up super late. And yeah, if it's at like 12, that may interfere with me getting up, because I usually like to be prepared a bit for the streams. But yeah, no, I'll do some streams at an earlier time, but it might be a few weeks before I do that, because the next one has already been scheduled, and I don't want to move a scheduled stream. I will try to move the one after that to a time that makes it so that people in Asia and Australia can stay up and actually properly enjoy it. So yeah, no, definitely. I feel that this question is quite broad, but what do you think? Oh, do you think having express services on MRT or metro lines is worth it? That's a great question. I want to talk about the Chengdu Metro. It's a very cool system you should look into if you haven't, where they do have an express service. Well, they have some express services. It's a weird system. They basically built a whole parallel line for express services. I think it's an interesting question that I don't necessarily know that I can answer. I think that for some cities, there isn't necessarily a legacy rail network that can be used. And in that case, it's harder to provide express services because that's usually what you would do on a legacy rail network. So yeah, no, in some places for sure it makes sense. Yeah. Do you think turning high capacity roads into low capacity roads with bike lanes and wider sidewalks is a good idea? High capacity for who? For whom? Whom is getting the high capacity? That's my question for you. Would you ever consider doing guest videos to cover more videos? Potentially, yeah. You know, if people are interested in guest starring, I guess I have done some, right? Like but it's not a whole guest video. Like the not just bikes. Nova Bus fan came and did a video. David Frankel and Gareth Dennis did a video with me as well. Probably going to be doing a video with Alan Fisher and the Forefoot, who are great YouTubers you should check out in the future. A whole guest video, maybe, if someone actually wants to follow my format. But I don't really want to have a video on my channel that doesn't kind of follow our standard format, because, I mean, that's what makes this my channel, right? So we'll see. I have plans. I have a lot of interesting video release plans, and I'd be interested to hear people's thoughts on them. I am thinking about... Okay, maybe I shouldn't talk about it, but I am thinking about frequency of videos, etc. And I'm thinking about all kinds of ideas. I'm also thinking about what I might do later in the year. Perhaps in December, I have some wild plans. There's a fly. It's a tiny little fruit fly. It's very annoying. But anyways, I'm thinking about various things. Do you plan to do videos on how to improve transit in the countryside? Absolutely. It's something that gets requested a lot, and I think I have one planned, but let me take a look here. You know, even if I do, I'm gonna just I'll make another video. A note. Some people still stereotype railways as expensive, slow, and always late. How would you like to reply to this? You should take a trip to Japan. Yeah. I think there's a metro train line in North Siberia that has elevated track that's encased. Yep, that's not uncommon. Actually, the best example of this, though, is I think Sapporo in Japan, which has a really extensive enclosed system. Yep. CDLTO beat me to it. When is the Netherlands getting real high-speed trains? Yeah. Well, Fira was a bit of a problem, wasn't it? Many would regard Chicago-style NL transit lines as unsightly. Do you want trains going right past your windows? Yes. Have you seen my earlier videos from the beginning of 2020? I do want that. But no, Chicago L-style transit lines are not something we really build anymore, right? So I don't think they're really comparable. Thoughts on having the Ontario line hook north onto Jane? I would prefer it to an LRT. CDLTO, see they have Paris-like metro trains with rubber wheels. Yes, they do. When were those lines built? Do you compare other types of infrastructure to things of that age? That is a great point, right? What did roads look like in like the late 1800s? They were probably made of dirt. Would you say if someone was proposing a new highway through the middle of your city or anywhere, a new road of any kind, how would you feel if they suggested a dirt road? This is a great example, and I'm going to use it far more often. What's the name of your dog? He's so cute. I'm not going to comment on that, unfortunately. But yeah. Could you make a video about security on subways? Why does BART have 4 times the violent crime of other systems? I don't really want to talk about that because I think it's not really something that I should talk about. But let's just say that there's a lot of issues that need to be solved, and they're not just issues. Obviously, crime is a complex issue. I can't really break it down. You need to look into like what causes crime, and the fact that it's not. It's often a societal problem. It usually is a societal problem. Should there be express bus routes to Toronto's terminal subway stations? I actually think so, but maybe using Go buses. Is Reece even reading the questions in this chat? Yep, I read all of them. I don't necessarily reply to all of them, but I read all of them. I reply to all super chats. Anyways, sort of off topic, just curious, what genres of music do you like? Well, I frequently, you know, I'm a little short on sleep when I'm slurring my speech. What genre of music do you like? Someone asked. Well, I like many, but as many have seen, I wear a Queens of the Stone Age shirt frequently, and as many have complained about, I'm a big fan of Queens of the Stone Age. I like a lot of rock music, alternative rock in particular. I like lots of stuff. I mean, there's some older pop music that I like, old pop, not new, probably not 2000s or later. As I said, rock, classic rock, new rock, old rock. I love rock. But I enjoy some rap too. There's some great rap out there. I mean, I like R&B. I like everything except for country music. I even like classical, like Chopin and stuff is really good. I was listening to Moonlight Sonata, obviously not Chopin, but I was listening to Moonlight Sonata before I came on. So yeah, I listened to lots of stuff. And someone referred to a certain group who will not be named, and yes, that is the group I was referring to. I'm in Miami. The transit sucks. Hey, Miami is better than some cities in the U.S. Facebook is horrible, but it's often the only place where you can get more obscure transit news. I would say Twitter is a great place. I recommend, seriously, go on my Twitter, follow me, you'll get lots of news. But also look at the people I follow, and they're often really good, and yeah, you'll get a lot of good info from them. The fly is right near me, and I'm very angry about it. Okay, I don't see it anymore. Have you read about all the rail transit expansion plans for the Pearl River Delta? They're building a network bigger than Greater Tokyo in the next 10 to 15 years. Pretty sure the Pearl River Delta has more people than Greater Tokyo, so that would make sense. That being said, Tokyo already has that network, so But no, it's great. It's great to see. I'm happy for the Guangzhou's, Shenzhen's, and Hong Kong's of the world. Do you think that regional rail should eventually come to Ottawa? I think it already has. I kind of think of Line 2 of the O train as such a system. Do you know American Rail Club? Yes, I do, and it's an interesting channel. Can ferry services be improved, or are there other options? Of course they can, but I think fixed sorry. I think fixed links are a better option in most cases. Not in most. I mean, if it's a really long distance, fixed links are not necessarily practical. But I did spend a lot of time last night reading about Rail Baltica, which is a great project. And I have to note to myself, I think I made a note. Did I not make a note? I'm going to talk about Rail Baltica in a video. Part of that project is potentially a tunnel from Estonia to Finland, which would be awesome and would replace a lot of ferries. Which Canadian system needs the least investment, and what does it need to be brought up to scratch? I would say the TTC subway, actually, because, the least investment? I'm a little confused. Do you mean the most investment? Because why would it need to be brought up to scratch if it needs little investment? Please clarify. You should look at the Brussels public transport network. They integrate tram, metro, and train into an interesting manner and effective. Oh, yeah. I've been to Brussels. I do like the system. Actually, one of your beautiful Bombardier trams operated in Vancouver back in 2010 for the Olympics, which are happening in Tokyo now. Side note, wow, the stream's been going on long. Wow, still 83 viewers, which is awesome. So exciting. If you haven't, please check out the B channel, follow me on Instagram and Twitter, join the Discord, and set a reminder for the next stream, which is in the link in the video description. But so I was watching the Rio opening ceremony because it was very annoying to find a video of the Tokyo opening ceremony, and that's because of the stupid way the rights and things work with these major sporting events. Obviously, it's, as I mentioned, very frustrating. But in the Rio video, you could see some trains going by in the background. Seeing trains go by at night is like the coolest thing, with all the lights in the carriages. So you just see like a stream of lights sliding across the city. It is the coolest thing. I remember the first time I ever visited Japan, I was going from Narita to the city center, and I was in a car. I didn't drive the car, but I was in a car. I would have taken the Narita Express. Trust me, I would have today, but I just didn't, right? I have taken it since, but it was really cool though. And hey, maybe this was worth it because you could see from the expressway the trains going by kind of along the side at nighttime, and I think there was a mall at one point, and there was like a train going by. It was the coolest thing. Anyways, very cool thing. Trains at night from a distance, very awesome. Big fan. I'm a bit crazy. I know. Okay, so something I was going to mention. Let me just do something quickly. I was going to say, what did I get for my birthday that I was very enthusiastic about? Because I know you folks are enthusiastic about stuff that is sometimes nerdy. I am a big fan of pens. Yes, I am a stationery nerd. And I got this beautiful Lamy pen for my birthday, and I am very happy about it. It has a very fine tip. If you don't know about Lamy pens, they're awesome. You should look into them. It will change your life, especially if you write a lot. But I had some Lamy pens that were destroyed in university, and many that exploded. So suffice to say, yeah, sometimes they can be a little frustrating. Okay, let's continue. You mean intercity? Okay, someone's talking about the Pearl River Delta. Stockholm Metro Transit explained. Isn't it called the T-Bana in Stockholm? Anyways, I will, yes, but I just did Copenhagen, and it would not be really fair to do a city that is so close to Copenhagen, so I will do other cities, but it will come up eventually. Hey, my plan is if I get enough subscribers that makes YouTube sustainable in the long term, so, you know, like and subscribe, as they say, and send to your friends. If I get enough subscribers, I plan on keeping going with YouTube as long as humanly possible. Which means that, yeah, I would love to cover like every major system in the world, if that's possible, right? Now, some countries like China become quite difficult for me to cover, but yeah, no, I plan on covering as much as possible. So major systems like that will definitely be covered. Yeah, combined, the metro and intercity rail lines will make up almost 6,000 kilometers. Are you worried about the capacity of the Ontario line? Any suggestions for improving capacity? No, because I think fundamentally an assumption that's made that isn't reasonable is that this needs to basically be able to handle the same number of passengers as line 1, because if line 1 goes down, you need to be able to like carry all those passengers, etc., etc. I don't agree. I think that that's sort of a strange assumption to make, that you need the same capacity. It is a lower demand corridor. Like, it's that simple. Yonge Street is going to be a higher demand corridor because it's Yonge Street. It is a single corridor with tons of jobs, tons of density. The same is not true for the Ontario Line corridor. It's an important corridor, but I would say relative to the Yonge Line, it's you know, the importance is similar. And so I think that it is appropriate capacity wise. 5-car metro trains that are 3 meters wide is not low capacity, right? That's similar to Line 4, the Shepherd subway, which has big trains. I've said frequently that I think the Canada Line would be amazing if it was even slightly shorter than the Ontario Line trains. So I think the Ontario Line trains are sufficient, and they're designed to operate super frequently, which is great. I think it's more important that we learn to build subways cheaper and build more of them. And there are many cities, Paris, Madrid, Barcelona, that use smaller trains than 100 meter by 3 meter trains. So, no, I don't think the capacity is really a huge issue. And I think that if it becomes an issue, there's a lot of ways we can mitigate that, right? Provide better GO service. People loading up on the eastern section can hop onto giant GO trains that will take them to the city center. And maybe we build a GO tunnel that goes through the city center, like an RER tunnel in the future. So there are so many options. I don't think that the Ontario Line's capacity is an issue. I don't think it's something we really need to worry about. It's going to have platform screen doors, etc. too. It's going to be good. I think it's going to be more capacity than people realize. And I think it's important to think that, and this is something I talk about a lot, we need to focus on lines that exist. Line 1 needs to have a capacity improvement. We can't just assume that by building parallel lines, you're going to solve the problems of another line. Line 1 needs to have its capacity improved. We need to use full-length trains. We don't even use the whole platform. We need to have more doors on those trains. There's no reason that we couldn't move to 5 doors per car if we're going to have really long cars like we do, which would help. It would help improve frequency. And if you look at Chengdu, their Line 1 has a parallel line that's an express line. So, yeah, maybe someday we will build an express line under the Yonge Line, because Yonge Street is a crazy important corridor. Go look at it on Google Maps. My throat is getting a little sore, which means I have been talking a lot. But I'm going to get through all these messages. So, whew. What do you think of the Dutch rolling stock? It's good, but I wouldn't say it's amazing. Switzerland is extremely wealthy, but most systems have trolleybuses. Hardly a poor man's transit system. Okay. I may be the first person to say this. Switzerland, great country, not always the most cross-applicable to other countries. So it is worth pointing out. Do you know the Lyon tram network? Yes. Brampton has approved plans to go fully underground. Is underground LRT better than above ground? Not when it's connected to above ground. Okay, maybe still a little, but not tons. Someone's asking me to add the description to add the second channel to the description of the video. Might be a bit tricky. I'm gonna add the channel in this chat, and in the future I will add it to the description. Dallas Dart explained. Yep, in the future. Wait, I think. I don't know how I missed this message, but Nouveau Cost said before, I was impressed to see you walking young video. You must be in great shape. Not in great shape, unfortunately. That is something I need to improve a lot. So, but I do think walking a lot is a great way to stay in shape. Will you ever walk the Expo line from King George to Waterfront? I have before, but I didn't really document it. Opinion on AirTrain LGA: bad, but not as bad as people seem to think. Okay, it's improvement over the bus. Are there transit channels you would like to roast? I don't really believe in roasting transit channels. At the end of the day, I know it's not always this way, but I do kind of want my channel to be academic. You know, I want it to be not, you know, it doesn't have to be that serious, but I want it to be educational and very serious about everything, and that's just my style, and it's what I wanted to create. So I'm not really into roasting people. I appreciate that other people make videos, etc., and at the end of the day, it's just not really my style. So yeah, that's what I would say. How about East Side Access? Big improvements expected. It will be an improvement, but it's not at all worth the cost. What is your favorite Canadian transit map? The Montreal Metro. Vancouver is good, though, too. Throat really killing me. Do people really think that catenary is ugly? Yeah, and rightfully so. Especially trolley buses. When you have like intersections that are covered in a ton of wires, it isn't the most nice look. Okay, I'm scrolling up. Apparently, staying up late makes me more relatable. So, do you follow Strong Towns? I really like their podcast. I have a bit, but I'll be honest, I haven't a ton. Nationalized intercity bus services exist here in form of Ontario Northland. Yeah, that's true. And actually, BC also has a BC bus service. Yes, I don't want to be doxed. The dog is in the witness protection program. Yeah. Should high-speed trains be priced dynamically like the TGV, or should they be more distance-based like Shinkansen? I think Shinkansen style. I've actually never have heard complaints about catenary in the Netherlands. Maybe people are just used to it. Also, trams have less wires, right? So, it's worth pointing out. French trains used to be distance-based. Now they're dynamically priced. Numble on Twitter is great for transit news. When are you making videos about Latin American cities? I believe in my list of like upcoming videos. Yeah, I have a Santiago Metro explained. Let me make an extra note here. I have a Santiago Metro explained planned, though there's someone who needs to get back to me about making that video. So, certain person on the Discord server who needs to get back to me about making it. Yes, Rail Baltica video. Happy to hear. Hi, Gnome. Tunnels may be inherently seismically safer than land structures. Still, tunnels have to be modified for quakes. How much more expensive does that make tunneling in seismic zones? Japan does lots of it, so I don't know. And also, remember, the Canada Line in Vancouver built very cheaply in a seismic zone, seismically ready. Yeah, I mean, yeah. How many passenger trains can you put on an active freight line? I think that's hard to answer because it depends on the freight traffic and the type of trains. I doubt anyone is going to fund Rail Baltica for a region with the largest population decline on Earth. I don't know if they are the largest. Are they really the largest population decline? Hello from San Diego, says Joel. Thanks so much for the super chat, Joel. He's excited for the light rail extension. I will make a video about it eventually. People have asked for a long time. It's 200 km per hour high speed in my books. What's your absolute favorite pen? I like my Lamy Safaris. What's your opinion on BRT systems? How can you turn it into a light rail tram? I wouldn't do that. Don't do that. Just turn it into a light metro. Yeah, it's called the Tunnelbana or T-Bana, which literally just means tunnel railway. Same with Oslo and its T-Bane system. Yes. What's the best way for Europe to increase their rail freight tonnage? Probably build freight specific lines. What's the best? Okay, yep. There's been some debate on UT and SSP regarding whether it's worth electrifying via HFR in terms of cost versus benefit. The planet is warming. Let's do that. Electrify, please. Speaking of which, Oslo is a really interesting case. A city of just about 800,000 with 5 subway lines and 10-minute frequencies on each, 6 tram lines, and a wide-reaching bus and regional rail network. Yeah, it's a pretty awesome system. Apparently the S in STOG doesn't stand for anything. Interesting. Oslo has more like 1.5 million in the metro area. Yeah, metro area is an important thing to think about. STOG was adapted from the German S-Bahn. Become a higher level patron to get Reece swole. Lol. Are you familiar with the X2000 train in Sweden? They're upgrading it to a more modern version with a new interior and exterior. I was not, but please send me a link in the chat. I'd like to look at it, and I'll react live. Something I want to mention is, because I've discussed this on the Discord, but not maybe here, we're going to do a meetup, I think, in the Toronto area later this year. So if you're in Toronto, or if you're able to travel to Toronto, I think we'll do a meetup if people are interested in that, which could be kind of cool. I'm thinking about what we would do, but I'm not sure 100%. But yeah, I already meet up with, I've done sort of a meetup with patrons before, but a channel level meetup will require a lot more planning. So yeah. Have you looked at the card Mexico City created that integrated all public transit? Yes, I believe I have seen it. And yeah, it should be implemented in every city. Which is pretty common in a lot of cities. What is to be done with super low density suburban blight cities such as Atlanta or Dallas-Fort Worth? Well, maybe you can't make super efficient transit, but you could do Sydney trains level transit, which is still a big improvement. What do you study? I don't. I'm graduated over a year ago. I have a degree in computer science. I spend my nights and my days studying transit, though. I'm sad right now because it's raining in Toronto and the path is closed. Why would the path be closed? Yeah, it is raining, but I like rain, so. Do you play Mini Metro? I used to, and I always found it very hard, so. Wasn't it like 100 degrees in Toronto recently? It may have been. It gets pretty hot here. Could batteries allow trolleybuses to not need messy wires over intersections, at least where they're less visually impactful? Possibly, but then you probably wouldn't want trolley poles, which I suggested in my Trolleybus video, but no one actually seemed to take that bit of it out, just the Reece hates trolleybuses bit. But yeah, maybe with like those dynamic pantograph systems, you could do it. Metro North explained? Yep, eventually. Video on the Fehmarn Belt fixed link between Germany and Denmark. Yeah, I will do that. Denmark has tons of interesting rail and road fixed links that are worth talking about. What do you think of CT Rail's Hartford line? I haven't thought a ton about it. Apologies. Big fan. You should do a video on the weird transport system in Birmingham, UK. Yeah, it is a weird transit system for sure. It's a big city with bad transit. Is it hard to reactivate an old line for passenger use? Define hard. I don't think it's that hard, but maybe in North America we think of it as being hard. What do you think of the Metro North M8s? Cough, cough, cough. I don't like the M8s. I think they're quite ugly. That's my honest opinion. I wish they looked more like trains in Japan. Path closed due to wet. They don't usually close it for that. What city do you think has the best metro train liveries? I'm a big fan of Berlin, but I'm also a big fan of Tokyo. Any plans to look at rail in Switzerland or transport in Zurich specifically? Yes, I will definitely do a video on rail in Switzerland. The Tube probably has the most iconic livery. I do agree. I really am a big fan of the Tube livery. The Fly is here somewhere. Whew. Bottom of the chat. That took a lot of time. An hour and 20 minutes, but I did it. I will stay on a bit longer, but I am slowly wrapping things up. If you haven't already, go check out the new channel. Also, subscribe and like and hit the bell icon. Let's try to get those numbers up. They're kind of low. And yeah, follow me on Instagram. I have an idea regarding double-deckers and dwell times. How about double-deckers with doors and platforms at both levels? It's the kind of idea that seems like it might create more problems than it solves. What aesthetic do you like the most? Rubber tire metro or steel wheels? I don't know. I like them both in different ways. They're both, you know, it's like children, really. I'm really trying to find the fly. It's tiny, truly tiny, but it just bothers me a lot. So I'm going to respond to a few more questions, and I'm going to stop the stream because I am really tired, and I have a video to make for tomorrow, and Monday, and Wednesday, and Friday. So, will the Transway tube be more expensive per mile compared to BART tunnels under urban San Francisco? Why? Yes, probably just because it's even more complicated than tunnels under urban San Francisco, and because America is a bit of a crazy place for transit. Does Siemens have a diesel-electric locomotive for long-distance use? Yeah, the Siemens Charger has a long-distance variant being used in the United States. Favorite project you're waiting to happen? Ontario Line. Will we see more orders from Stadler for EMUs in the United States? I would love to. It may not happen, but we'll see. CDLTO, a subway station that is easily tall enough could have 2 levels of platforms. Yeah, but it doesn't exist. Bi-levels with 3 doors on the bottom level. Is it possible to increase dwell times? Maybe, but it wouldn't help that much because, you know, there's already a lot of density of doors actually on those lower levels. Adding a 3rd one is probably not going to help a ton. New channel is linked in the chat above. I think that's it for today. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming by. Please set a reminder to watch the next stream, which will be in 2 weeks. Thanks again. Oh, the fly. Thanks again for the super chats, folks. Yeah, 2 weeks. And then after that, I'll do one focused for people in Asia at a different time. Stay in touch with me via social media. Always feel free to send me an email if you have questions, or just send me a message on Discord. That's probably better. But yeah, thoughts on Mexico City's upcoming elevated trolleybus route. It's very exciting. Yeah. Anyways, thanks for watching, everyone. Oh, yes, I will cover public transit in Dublin, for sure. Thanks for watching, everyone. I am going to go like this so I can see when I have got to the right point on the actual stream, which is playing delayed. And I'm going to end the stream. Thanks again. Ta-ta for now.